Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Motivated Results. So, I'm kind of doing here like my little morning routine, mostly just coffee. Who am I right now? I'm here, looking sexy, drinking coffee and shit. Who am I? Some of you guys aren't gonna get that reference. I'm about to do some mobility, flexibility stuff, and I know that in the past I've gotten some questions from friends or family members who have wanted to know what I do for specific mobility or what I do to stretch certain things out. And so I thought I would show you my mobility routine. I'm going to break it down into an upper and lower body, primarily for time's sake. Once again, mobility is going to be something that's very specific to you, specific to your genetics and your lifestyle. And so the things that you need to work on might be different than mine. And so as you view this routine, I would suggest that you remove and add movements depending on what your needs are. And what do I mean by that? There are certain things that you are tight. Your hips are maybe tight, your quads are tight, your calves are tight, your back is tight, whatever. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that you have certain body movements that promote those tightnesses. Or maybe, for example, if you work at an office job, your hips are probably gonna be very tight or your back is gonna be tight because of sitting for long periods of time. And so because of that, you're gonna have to learn yourself and learn what you need to do in order to keep yourself mobile. And so add and remove these things as you see fit. Also, spend more time on things that you need more time on. For example, if your hips are really tight, spend more time on your hips. Break down that tissue a little bit more and more so that you can be more functional with your own body. For this video, for the sake of time, what I'm gonna do is just go through my routine. I'll make little cliff notes. I'll kind of talk about things as I'm doing it, but I'm gonna try to fast forward through all of them. That way you're not seeing a full, 15, 20 minutes worth of mobility on a YouTube video. Once again, questions, comments, post them down below. As far as what I'll be using today, is gonna be mostly the foam roller. I'm gonna have a medium resistance band. I'm gonna have one of these giant balls right here. Let's get started. Oh yeah. And I forgot about this guy. It's just basically a home-built roller, which I might make a video about later because I would improve this design a bit, but you guys can already tell what it is, and so you guys could easily build this on your own. What I usually start by doing is just rolling my spine, rolling my back every single time, only because my back tends to be a little tight, and that's where you feel a lot of popping, a lot of cracking. And it just kind of helps me get back in that right spot. So once again, with all these movements, spend as much time or as little time as you need on these so that you can function better. Usually afterwards, I'll attack the foam roller in the same fashion. What I do with the foam roller is twofold. One, I will roll my back on it and just kind of let everything sink in, let everything pop in together. You hear once again, a lot of cracking, a lot of popping. I'll work on the upper traps and throughout the back. And then what I'll do is find areas that are really tight where I don't like being in for too long, or areas that hurt, and you'll get a feeling as to what type of pain you're looking for after doing this for a while. And then what I'll do is usually lay on those spots for a while, let the weight of your body break down that tissue on its own. I'll sometimes lay here closer to the pelvic bone just to let everything pop back together, and then just find the areas that are a little tight and then just lay on them for a little bit. Let your weight do the work and then roll that area back out. Also, what I like to do is roll the shoulders in and then let that center area, that center back area, get exposed a little bit more, and then roll that as well. I usually will start doing the same as I did with the upper body, just kind of rolling the lower body to find any tight areas. And don't just hit it at one angle, try to sometimes look for other angles where you might have some tightnesses that you weren't aware of. What I usually tell people is that if you have a tight area, specifically on your legs, and this amount of pressure is not enough when you're doing this, what I would usually tell people is to double up on the leg and then use this leg to apply more weight onto that tight area. And then just hold it for a second, let the tissue break down, and then just kind of roll it out. Some of you that have not done this or have really tight tissue are going to have to deal with some pain in the beginning. And it's gonna suck, but believe me, after you do it, you'll feel a lot better, and the more you do it, the less it'll hurt. This is a fairly advanced foam roller. As you can tell, it has little nipples here that apply a little bit more pressure and a little bit more spot pressure than maybe the smooth rollers would. And so you will eventually have the ability to graduate onto something like this. Some of you might not want to start with something like this, but eventually you should be able to get to the point where you can feel comfortable using something like this. In addition to doing the hamstrings, I'll also do the quads. And I usually find it easier to hit the outer quads by laying sideways on the roller like this. Now we've gotten that area out of the way. What I usually tell people is the glutes and the hips are definitely an area where I like to hit a lot, especially prior to squatting. So let's kind of go through that. So as far as the glutes, I like to lay primarily all of my weight on one butt cheek at a time, and then I'll work from the outer area and work kind of in. Once again, you foam roll to find any tight issues or tight areas, tight tissue, and then you kind of work on that a little bit and apply pressure as needed. So usually what I'll do with the hips is try to break down this tissue here in the outer area. And so I will usually lay in that area a little bit and try to break down that tissue that way. And for me, a lot of the time this involves just laying on that area because there's not a lot of tissue to break down. This might hurt a little bit. So I'll start from the knee area, and then once again just kind of get a feel for where it might hurt, and then just kind of rolling it out. Some of you that follow me on Instagram have seen some of my posts that I'm talking a lot about my ankle mobility, and while that's been a big priority for me, also my knee positioning has been a priority for me as well. And this exactly has helped a lot with that. And I usually find that a lot of people get tight in that inner groin area, kind of here. So if you're mobile enough and if you feel adventurous, I would say you can always try to do like an upward dog in that area. Just make sure you're not pinching any necessary areas. Get that tissue nice and limber, nice and loose. You have to remember that a lot of the pain that comes from doing these type of mobility, flexibility routines comes primarily from the tissue being really tight. And so if the tissue is not tight, you'll find that you'll feel fairly relaxed on the foam roller. This is one of these unique things where some of you might have a hard time with this, and this might be more an advanced level item, especially depending on the band resistance. But I enjoy it. I usually place the band on the hip area, and then depending on the resistance, you want to bring it into the knees. Make sure it's centered on your hips. I like to bring in the feet a little bit. And then just learn to relax in this position. Make sure that your back is touching all the way down to your hip bone. You don't want your back lifted off. If you do, you're gonna have to separate from the wall. And then just make sure that you have even contact from your feet to your back. And then slowly just relax in this position. Let your body naturally relax. Let the bands push your knees apart. If you want a little bit more help, you can always bring your hands in and just let them relax. It gives a little bit more pressure on the knees, pushing the knees further out, and allowing you to just get a little bit more flexibility. At some point, you do want to work on getting the most amount of flexibility possible by pushing out the knees a little bit more and more. And then slowly try to work your way out of it. I would suggest taking one side of the bands off at a time, stretching a little bit, and then easing out of the position. And then on to one of the final steps for me. When I talked about my mobility and having issues with my ankles, staying on the floor while squatting, a lot of that came from, once again, lack of mobility, but also from really tight calves, and still to this day I have really tight calves. And then also some of the muscles here in this area tighten up a lot and do not allow proper flexibility. So what I usually like to do is take a roller. I guess I could do a video on this if you guys want me to show you how to make this. Pretty simple. But I try to break down the tissue here. Don't run it on the shin because it will hurt like hell. You'll learn kind of where you need to do it. Once you do it a bit, I like to just kind of just roll. And this one is a little bit more of an intense roll. I do kind of lay quite a bit of pressure on it to try to break down that tissue and to try to loosen it a bit. We're just kind of stepping up to a wall and then trying to keep pressure on the full foot on the ground and then just locking it out. This allows the calf to break some tension as well, and then also helps continue the flexibility of the angle of the ankle. Another thing I like to do is sometimes just grab this and just break down the calf a little bit. Just make sure that you don't have pressure on that foot while you're doing it. You can also do this sitting, same difference. And use the foam roller. In addition to this, I'll also run a couple of tests. I'll do some body weight squats at a very slow tempo in order to find out how useful the mobility routine has been or how much more I need to work on other things before going out to work out. But that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. That's kind of my lower body routine. I do this probably about 6 times a week. As I get older, I feel like I need to do this more often. And then also, I need to work on mobility quite a bit after not doing it for a really long time. I'll post a video on the corner why that is. I'll have the upper body mobility routine up soon. I just was doing this already and I thought I would throw it up. If you guys like these type of videos, let me know. Hit that like button. And I try to keep these pretty concise, so I probably missed a few things. If you have questions on any of the items I use or questions about mobility as a whole, post them down below, or you can reach me on Twitter, which is Motivatedresults, or Instagram and YouTube is Motivated Results. That's it. I think my coffee got cold. See you guys next time.